Welcome back to our next info session, which is dedicated to programs in arts and humanities. And during this session, we are going to introduce you three of our master's programs, which are Folkloristics and Applied Heritage Studies, Philosophy, and Semiotics. And if you could see, I have quite some speakers on the stage today. So we will start from the Folkloristics from the presentation about Folkloristics and Applied Heritage Studies. And this presentation is going to be introduced by Elohana Selyama. And then we will continue by presentation in philosophy, which is going to be done by Alex Davis. And then two of our presenters, Eli Mari Tragel and Tiit Rem, are going to introduce the program in semiotics. I would like also to remind you that you have a great chance to leave your questions, and then our program managers are going to answer them online. So if you are watching us from Workshop, please find the bottom Q&A, which is next to the current session, and then you can write your questions, and then we will answer them online. In case if your question was already asked, you can also rate it, and then we are going to find this question the first on the list. Okay, I think we can start right now. Enjoy the session and please ask your questions. And we will start with our first presentation. Elohana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and very glad to be here today and to introduce you the Folkloristics and Applied Heritage Studies program. So this is a 2-year master's program, and one of the things that makes it unique is that it's being managed by different units at the University of Tartu. So we have the Institute of Cultural Research and then the Viljandi Culture Academy, and we are kind of responsible for the different aspects of this program. And we offer 2 specializations. One of them is analysis of folklore and cultural heritage, and the other one is the study of and application of the heritage of crafts. And we accepted the first cohort in 2017, so this is still a fairly new program, and your cohort would be the 6th one. So we already have some experience, but it's still new, and kind of we're very enthusiastic about the program itself and what it enables us to do. So one of the reasons for establishing this program was that we sensed that there was a need for a critical and constructive response to the current heritage boom that all of us are experiencing right now, have been doing so already for almost 2 decades at least. And in this program, we approach cultural heritage as a resource that is to be used ethically and sustainably. And at the same time, we don't approach heritage as something that is already there, but rather we're interested in how it's made and who is making it and why and what kinds of different kind of heritages are there. So we want to equip our students with tools for mediating between various interest groups in this broad field of heritage, and to do so on local, national, and international level, and all of them are intertwined when it is about heritage. And in particular, we focus on intangible cultural heritage, and also how it relates to folklore. So in our program, we approach them as different categories that also have overlaps, and what you can do with one or the other is something you learn when you come to study with us. And another thing that is unique to this program, and that was also a rationale behind creating it, is craft studies. We have wonderful competence for it at the University of Tartu, more particularly at the Viljandi Culture Academy. And it's something we wanted to share with the world. How do you study craft, and why does it matter in our world? And Viljandi Culture Academy is located about 80 kilometers from Tartu. There is a good connection, and we do have students who are taking classes in Viljandi, and then also in Tartu. So some more program highlights that we are kind of happy and proud of is that we are really able to focus on students and to help them develop their chosen career paths. Because our program is relatively small, or some would say in comparison to some other programs at the University of Tartu, it's very small, which means that we can really offer tailor-made solutions based on students' individual needs and plans. And what helps us do it is our generous elective course module. So our students are kind of expected to choose courses from other departments at the Institute of Cultural Research, from other institutes in arts and humanities, but also from elsewhere at the University of Tartu. And our students are really doing it, and sometimes they succeed in finding courses I even didn't know they exist. And they have very good explanations for why they ought to take them and how it's going to help them in their plans related to heritage, cultural heritage, and folkloristics. What we also aim to do is to provide students with practical skills and also academic skills. And I would like to say here that academic skills are practical as well. And also hands-on experiences that would enable them to develop career opportunities both in academia and also elsewhere. And one of the ways in which we support this is the opportunity to graduate with a master's project, which is an alternative to the traditional master's thesis. And I say more about it very soon. Then something that I think the entire of University of Tartu ought to be proud of is that we offer plenty of study abroad opportunities, and the curriculum is structured in such a way that when you take courses abroad, they count towards your studies in Tartu. And there's a link there so you can explore the various study abroad opportunities yourself later. And something that I personally am very proud of and that continues to inspire me as a scholar and as a teacher is the diverse study environment and our diverse student population. So currently we have 21 students who come from 14 different countries, which really is a wonderful resource that we tap into in classes and that we are kind of aiming to learn to use better and better with each year. And to me, this diversity speaks to the importance of cultural heritage and intangible cultural heritage in particular in the contemporary world, that it has relevance on all continents and in very different countries. And regarding the student population, I would also emphasize the NEFA student organization, which brings together international students and then students from Estonia working and studying in our Estonian language programs in ethnology and folkloristics. And something that NEFA does is organize events also. And so it's a wonderful socializing as well as kind of learning opportunity. Our program is affiliated with the UNESCO Chair on Applied Studies of Intangible Cultural Heritage at the University of Tartu. In the entire world, there are only 8 UNESCO chairs in the field of intangible cultural heritage. And there is a network of UNESCO chairs worldwide. They can be dedicated to various topics, but the overall aim is to enhance higher education and scientific research. And this is also what we aim to do by doing research and preparing students for various kind of subfields in the broad field of heritage studies. Then a couple of words about the curriculum. So as I mentioned briefly already before, our students can choose between two specializations. So one is the analysis of folklore and cultural heritage. And this is something that me and my colleagues at the Institute of Cultural Research in Tartu are responsible for. And they're listed. You can see some keywords and topics that give a sense of what is discussed in the courses, and also the research topics of the faculty members, and the geographical kind of focus points that we have. And you can see it really extends from Estonia and the Finno-Ugric peoples to India and Mongolia and really various countries and parts of the world. And then the study and application of the heritage of craft track in Viljandi, where courses look at craft studies, what it is and how to do it, and also practice-based learning. So how you can learn about culture by looking at how craft items are made and various craft techniques, but also didactics, kind of gender issues, various aspects that we maybe don't think are related to craft, but they are. And then students choose between either a master's thesis, which is quite a kind of traditional, established genre, many of you might be familiar with, and then the more novel master's project, which is essentially something a practical thing that you yourself do, and it's based on research and theory. So it still kind of comes out of your academic research and training, but it gives practical results. And I've listed there some of the sample things that our students have done. So, for example, they've designed educational tools, they've done podcast databases, created nominations for the Intangible Cultural Heritage list of either in their country or for the UNESCO, and also exhibitions, books and films. So it's really, the choice is yours, and we do our best to kind of help you make the best out of your plans and kind of choices. And altogether in the curriculum, there are 7 modules. And some of them are more compulsory and others are based on your choices entirely. Looking at what our students do once they graduate. So even though this is not a particular goal for us, then many of them have gone to continue their studies at PhD level at major universities in Europe and North America. Then also they have the skills to work as experts and mediators in the fields of cultural heritage and cultural policy. And usually countries have their own kind of networks and of organizations in this field. So it's also up to you and looking at what it is that you want to do. Then museums and archives, applied anthropology is something that's included in our courses. Media, writing and translating. So it's really, to make the most of this program, it's good to have a plan, and then we help you make this plan come true. So your initiative is important here. In addition to studies, I wanted to highlight some recurrent meetings and events. So on the one hand, it's wonderful socializing opportunity. On the other hand, it's networking also with other students, your future colleagues in other parts of the world, and also with scholars and faculty members from other countries. I would like to emphasize here that we have a wonderful partnership with the Estonian National Museum here in Tartu. It's very much integrated into our studies. Students do internships there. And also can volunteer for word film festivals and other events organized by the National Museum. And then there are several student conferences happening every year or every other year. And also students are very welcome to participate in events and other initiatives that come out from our faculty's current and recent research projects. So I've listed it here again to show the wide kind of breadth of our expertise, but also, to give you a sense of whether these are the topics you might be interested in, and if so, you might get experiences of participating in academic research projects already while doing your master's studies. Then the admissions requirements, really the most important things are the motivation letter and the admission interview, and you can find more detailed guidelines online. And what we really want to see and hear is you and why you are interested in folkloristics and applied heritage studies and where you see it taking you in the future. So your voice is important, and we want to see that when we read the letter and when we talk to you during the interview. And I would really encourage you to go through some of these links that show how our students, colleagues from other parts of the world have perceived of the program and what they think of it and how they experience it, and also some stories and projects by our students. So what they have done, for example, for their master's project and what it has taught them and why it matters. And also some further links for further information about the programs and the departments that kind of make up this program. And if you have further questions, then you are very welcome to email me or then email our general email address, and we'll get back to you. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Alohana, for your presentation. It was really nice to see that there are so many links that students can actually, after they receive the slides, can actually go by and then can see all the projects and everything what is happening at the department and everything what is related to the program. I also would like to mention that we, of course, going to forward you all of the slides and also the recording of the Open Doors Week, so you're going to have all of the information afterwards. But meanwhile, I still encourage you to ask right now the questions, because there is an excellent chance to get your answers online. So please don't forget to leave your questions in WorksUp, and then we will open our Q&A session after all presentations are done. And now we are going to move on to the next presentation, and we have Alex, who is going to introduce the program in philosophy. Alex, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello. Okay, so I'll jump straight into this. So let's start off with the question, why philosophy? So why would you want to study philosophy? Well, if you consider various challenges that are kind of facing the world at the moment, then you'll find that philosophical questions tend to underlie them. It's not long before you run into them. So here are 3 examples of that. So if you think about, for instance, whether requiring COVID passes as a condition on going into like a bar or a cafe, whether that's a form of discrimination, that's a philosophical question. That's one example. Another example, suppose you're educating children about homosexuality, for instance, in schools. Some people call that propaganda, and some people vehemently deny that. That's a philosophical question. Does it constitute that? Third example, if you think about the kind of polarization that's been going on over the world, the kind of move away from the center ground, then you can ask whether or not people are doing that for rational reasons. So whether or not when they form their beliefs on, for instance, climate change, whether they're forming their beliefs in a rational way. And that, again, is a philosophical question. What is it to form beliefs in a rational way is a philosophical question. So in terms of content, philosophers are working on various issues which have implications for what you should do in these various circumstances. What is the right thing to do? And here's a range of examples of the kind of topics that our recent MA students have been working on, which are similarly grounded in situations which, so the questions have practical implications. So if you take standards of guilt, so one would be, should you think that beyond reasonable doubt means that it's highly likely that the person is guilty? It turns out that if you interpret it that way, then you run into various kinds of problems. So for instance, you end up being committed to saying that purely on the basis of statistical evidence, you can convict somebody. So just because it's really, really probable. And many people feel very uneasy about that if you don't have any other further evidence in favor of that. But I won't go through these. You can look again at these when this stuff goes online. But these are an illustration of these sorts of issues that our MA students work on. But in addition to the content of philosophy, there's also the form. So there's certain kinds of transferable skills which you develop if you train in philosophy. So one of them would be developing clarity, the clarity of your argument. That's one thing that philosophers value very highly, that when you explain why you believe something, that you make very clear why it is that you believe it so that people can inspect those reasons and look at whether they're any good. Another is, say, rigor, or the meticulousness in investigating some question. And a third transferable skill would be being able to communicate to a range of different audiences, even when that audience doesn't share the work that you've spent on those questions. How can you communicate to people who don't share that background? And that's another thing that one develops in developing philosophical training. Okay, degree structure. So what about our degree structure? So our degree is very much tailored to where you're coming from, and I'm going to go into this in some detail. So one way in which our department facilitates that kind of tailoring is that it's a very diverse department. So it has all these different areas of philosophy, people working on research on these different areas of philosophy. And so if you have an interest in those areas, you can look up who's working on departments, and you can start to work on that yourself. So that's one aspect of diversity. Another thing is, if we look at master's degrees across the world, then you tend to find that they fall into taught masters or research masters. Taught masters are masters where predominantly you take a lot of courses, and then at the end you write a thesis. Another kind of master's is a research master's, and that's where you spend your degree producing a series of small pieces of research. Our degree is set up so that you can basically design what kind of a degree you want. So this large red section here is an area where you can basically choose whether you would like to fill it up with courses, or instead whether you would like to work with a supervisor or several supervisors on a series of pieces of research, where they will basically mentor you in developing the sets of skills that I was just describing. So depending on where you're coming from, your background, you can then choose that balance. And it works. So I'm pretty proud of the fact, and the department is pretty proud of the fact, that approximately 50% of each cohort of our students goes on to a funded PhD program in universities across the world. That's not 50% of the students who want to go, who try, because not all students want to go on and do philosophical research. But it's an indication that the training that we provide is competitive. What that means is that many of our students are out-competing other people from other universities for those positions. So I think what we do this job quite well. Okay, and then those who don't go into philosophical research go into a variety of areas where they're using those transferable skills and the content knowledge that they develop from the training that they receive from our degree. Okay, so what do we want from our applicants? So two things. So one is a sense of direction, so where they want to be by the time they finish their degree. And the other is that they're well prepared for that. So I'm now going to go into what that means. So what we ask from applicants are these three things. So in addition to an undergraduate degree and your language requirements, your English language requirements, we require these three things. So a motivation letter, which explains, I'll go into this. A motivation letter, writing sample, and an interview. Now the first two elements, the motivation letter and the interview, are both after your story. So what we want to, given that we give you so much freedom, to choose how to structure your degree, we want to know that you have a goal that you want to achieve by means of the degree, and so that you're in a position to make decisions about how to structure it. So we want to know why you want to come here, what you intend to do afterwards, and how the degree is going to help you get from where you came from to where you want to go. Now, one thing I want to stress is that we have people who have a background in philosophy, but we also have people who don't have a background in philosophy. They have backgrounds in other areas. We don't prioritize those with a background in philosophy. We're interested in people who have the characteristics that I'm describing. So that for starters, that they have this goal that will help them to structure their degree when they're here. Okay. The writing sample in the interview. So there we want to see that people understand what it is that we do. So they don't necessarily have to be able to do it as well as they're going to be able to do it by the time they finish our degree. But we want them to know what philosophy is about. This focus on presenting an argument in defense of a thesis, presenting it clearly and so on, that's what you're trying to do. And so the writing samples that we receive are sometimes philosophical essays, if the student has a background in philosophy, but not necessarily. So there are many good applications where they're showing that they understand what philosophy is about, even though the piece of writing that they send us to illustrate their knowledge of this, or their awareness of this, is not itself philosophical, but it's still defending a claim and presenting a clear argument for it. Okay. Right, cost of living. So I want to make a comparison with other places, and I want to do this because if you're thinking about studying philosophy here, then one thing that you'll be thinking about is you'll be looking at other philosophy MAs in other European countries, and I really want to stress that you're getting a good deal if you come here. We do our job well, and it's good value for money. So the degree itself is 4,000 a year, but there are these 8 fee waiver places. The cost of living itself is relatively low. So speaking to a couple of our current MA students, then they estimated that students will spend approximately 400 euros per month. The student on the left here, student 1, also receives a stipend, so she's spending slightly more and she's living in her own apartment. The student on the right is not receiving a stipend, lives in student accommodation, but is fine. Okay. Stipends, so these kinds of things. So an achievement stipend, which was what student 1 had. And then if you're an Estonian citizen, then you're eligible for needs-based stipends as well. And work. So it's possible to find work whilst you're here. So the student on the right, again, it's the same student too, doesn't speak Estonian, so they got a minimum wage job, and they use that to pay their living expenses whilst they're here. The student on the left receives a stipend. I think she also receives help from her family. But she's confirming what the student on the right is saying as well, that if you don't speak Estonian, you can get a minimum wage job. If you do speak Estonian, then the range of jobs you can get is much broader. But if you don't speak Estonian, you might also be able to get a job in the IT sector as well, which would help you in your studies. Okay, study environment. Okay, so the degree is, we've said it's scaffolded, so you get a lot of freedom to design it, but you're also going to be overseen in your choices by people who know better than you how the degree works. So that includes us giving you seminars, which help you to develop certain skills and be aware of how to take next steps after you finish your MA. But it also means that you're going to get assigned a supervisor immediately, even if you're taking lots of courses, because that supervisor will help you to make choices in designing your degree so that you get what you want out of it. The department is small, so that means that pretty soon everybody knows your name. And you will know the names. You'll probably be on first name basis with various members of staff. It's a very small place where you can ask for help very, very easily. It's not that you have to go through a large bureaucratic mechanism to try to get what you need. You can just talk to people very directly. Given our selection procedure and the kind of students that we're interested in, you're going to end up being surrounded by ambitious, smart, and supportive peers. You're going to be surrounded by people who were selected because they know what they want to get out of the degree, they know what they want to be, where they want to be after they finish the degree, and that's the kind of intellectual environment that you're going to be in whilst you're here. And examples of this. So there's a philosophy club that's run by the students. They ran a film series where they did public events, show a film, and then there'll be a discussion between a philosopher and then somebody else, going over the philosophical themes of the film. And also they were helping organize career development meetings, such as the one on the left here. Okay. And the environment's international. So your peers are going to be international. Most of them are. The staff are international, and the staff are international in two senses. There are members of staff who are not Estonian, but there are also many members of staff, most members of staff who are Estonian, have got very large parts of their education from abroad. So they're integrated with the international philosophical community. Every year we have the Frege lectures. So that's when a very renowned philosopher will come to Tartu for a week and develop a series of lectures, and you'll be able to kind of hang out with them, basically. You'll be able to go to lunch with them, talk about their work, their ideas. And in preparation for that, we always have a summer school where we read the work of the philosopher who's coming to visit so that we're all in sync with what's going to be said. Almost every year we have graduate workshops. So those are workshops which are run and organized by the graduate students themselves. So they get experience in doing that. and that allows them to develop a theme of the workshop which is related to their relevant research concerns. And on a regular basis, we have guest speakers coming into the department or during the time of the pandemic via Zoom to give talks. I mean, just yesterday we had Matthew Dennis, who's a philosopher who works on the effect of social media use on well-being and how to adapt the structure of social media so as to improve well-being. So that would happen yesterday. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say. So I just say that if you basically Google Tartu Philosophy Masters, you'll get a web page which has all of this information on it, and pretty much any question that you have will be answered by the information on that page. But having said that, obviously ask questions for the Q&A that comes up later. But yeah, so thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Alex, for your presentation and also for providing the case study from your students based on the living expenses and other information, which is going to be very useful for our future applicants. I also would like to invite you to our next session, because we are going to have students who are currently enrolled to these programs that are going to be introduced right now, or just been introduced, and you can also ask the questions about accommodation or life and how is their life going on as well. And right now I also would like to say that you can leave your questions. Don't forget to leave your questions. We are going to answer them after the last presentation. And right now we are going to move to our next presentation, which is going to be about master's programs in semiotics, and I'm giving the floor to Eli-Mari and Tiit. Please.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. We are here together because I am more representing the administrative side, and then Tiit is a program director who will be in Tartu more involved in the content of the program and the courses specifically. Today we're going to introduce just semiotic studies in Tartu, the department, how it's going to be when you come here, more about the curriculum specifically, and give you examples about the courses, then the research that is done in the department, and some extracurricular activities. So first about the department. Semiotics Department in Tartu. It's also really small and cozy, but what is really special is that it's actually one of the key semiotic centers in the academic world and in Europe. So, so about semiotics, we always have to kind of introduce what semiotics is in the first place. So I'm going to do that as well. And semiotics, it's a study of meaning generation processes, or semiosis. So it really focuses on communication and interpretation. So when you would study semiotics, you would get really this interdisciplinary and systematic understanding of how to investigate meaning and how to understand what makes life meaningful. And it has been actually said by, for example, Thomas Sebeok that semiosis is life. So it really makes you understand life better. And in Tartu, the Department of Semiotics, it has really deep roots in especially semiotics of culture and biosemiotics. So Jüri Lotman, the founder of Tartu-Moscow Semiotics School, and the oldest journal of semiotics, science system studies from the 60s, are from Tartu, this department, and also the forerunner of biosemiotics, Jakob von Uexküll, whose works on Umwelt theory maybe you have heard of. They have great relevance for theories of biology also as well. So the department established 30 years ago, this year, at the initiative of Jüri Lotman. is sharing a floor with philosophy. So we have this nice communication going on with other humanities courses as well. We have a small department of around 20 academic faculty members. Their doors are always open. You can go have a discussion, talk about your interests. We have approximately 120 students, and what is special about Semiotics Department in Tartu is that it's you have an opportunity to study semiotics kind of from the beginning to the end of this academic road. We have students on a BA program, we have Estonian masters, then international masters that we are talking about today, and also a PhD students. So students from different levels, different backgrounds from all over the world come together. They have really different interests, and then everybody is kind of bringing their own curiosity into the discussion, and you will have seminars with them. So the discussions, they're really wide, topic-wise. We have three main branches of study: semiotics of culture and biosemiotics, obviously, and then also social semiotics, which and all of these they give you together really broad understanding of general theory of semiotics, so you can get the really good background for each and every one of these, and theories of Ferdinand de Saussure and Peirce and all other fathers of semiotics, so to say. But also you can kind of specialize in the field that feels most close to your heart. So you can take more courses in like the culture side and less in biosemiotics, for example, or however you feel like you want to go this way. We also have a semiotics library that we are really happy about. This is a memorial collection of Thomas Sebeok, which has a lot of books on biology and others about all corners of semiotics. And this also is a place where you can go visit and do your research. So the international master's program in Tartu is in English. It's 120 credits over 2 years. And yes, taking place in downtown Tartu, but also I would like to specify in the light of previous events that we are also really experienced now in online studies. So for example, when traveling is complicated, our professors are prepared to offer this online attendance as well. And they're really helpful in this matter. So just something to bear in mind. It's designed so that there is 3 semesters dedicated for study and 1 semester in the end where you can more concentrate on your own research work. There's no courses anymore. So you can really take time to get into the investigation of meaning you want to do. About career opportunities, you see on the screen one example of what a semiotician has done, but basically all areas that require analytical skills and where signification, interpretation and communication are central. So consultation companies, for example, like you see on the screen, there's this kind of an entrepreneur opportunity to open your own consultation company. They give advice on court cases, for example. our graduates work in media, public relations, editing, all kinds of public administration places, creating communication strategies, and of course academic jobs. Many of our master students continue in PhD and they want to pursue career in academics. So this is also encouraged a lot. And now more on the curriculum.
Yes, thank you, Elli, and welcome. And I tried to give, as a semantician, some more dialogue into this presentation. So Elli already told a bit about the content of the program, but here is also the structure. And the structure is very simple, namely it starts with some common ground and basics of semiotics. So even if you don't have much of previous knowledge, you can set it here. And there is also the main knowledge of the Tartu School of Semiotics in those basic courses. And the studies end with a master thesis or master project, which is also the more practically oriented project that includes either semiotic analysis or semiotic ground for the project. And in between those endpoints, there are specialization, where you can also have some choices between the branches of semiotics, but also among elective courses that include some general skills, but also various topics from semiotics, and the list is continuously developing. So there are also sometimes guest lectures or some ad hoc topics. And also we have listed there some courses from our Master School of Humanities, which are among the elective courses. And besides, of course, you can choose something from your very own interest also. And during those studies, as I said, you need to make the master project or master thesis. And this is actually supported all through the studies, starting from the very getting to know the field and the department and learning some basics of academic writing and activity in semiotics, continuing with support for planning your research, and then already actual thesis research and writing. Up to the last semester, when it should be mostly individual writing and supervising. And actually, if you manage your choices, you can also have the last semester only for your master thesis, writing it wherever you want. And there are also on the slide some topics of previous master thesis. The important thing is that you can actually choose your topic according to your own interest, and of course taking into account also the competencies of possible supervisors. But the field is really wide, as there are also different branches of semiotics that include social, biological, as well as cultural topics. And here you can see most of our supervisors. The department is not big. And you can also see here the possible weather conditions in January, namely the true winter wonderland. And the staff who will teach you is mostly research staff, so that teaching is here research-based, and all the professors are engaged with research projects that vary from the study of strategic narratives in political communication to really elementary grounds of semiotics, like the question of semiotic fitting as a semiotic notion. but also the relations in the environment and human-environment relations, which is a bit more into the direction of applied semiotics, as well as the study how cultural education can use better semiotic theories and resources.
Oh, yeah, and already mentioned, we have Science System Studies, the oldest journal of semiotics here, and other several outstanding publication series, like Acta Semiotica Estica, and Tartu Semiotics Library that are publishing research articles all the time. And students also have a really great opportunity to send their work to Hortus Semioticus journal for students. And we also have many events and activities, the extracurricular communication. For example, just yesterday we celebrated Juri Lotman's 100th centenary with a huge congress that ended yesterday, and our students could participate either as a listener, presenter, or a volunteer there. We have International Summer University this year taking place in July, dedicated to Juri Lotman and semiotics of culture. And it's contemporary applications. We have visiting professors from around the world. This year, for example, cultural psychologist Jaan Valsiner is here. We have semiosalon events, these after-hours semiotic discussions. You can take a look at their website and see the recordings online. Students can give presentations there, and we go to trips to different places in Estonia with colleagues to see the meaning processes around us every day. And yes, and this is it. If you have any questions about admission, you're welcome to go to the website. All the information is there, or ask us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eli, Maria, and Tiit, for your presentation, and also for presenting some research perspective of what our students can do while studying semiotics at the University of Tartu. I guess right now it's going to be a right time to open a Q&A session and to answer the questions from our participants. So I have already monitored some of the questions, and there are lots of questions about motivation letter. So our applicants are interested, what they should write to be a successful candidate and what is expected from them. Maybe you can give some tips, and I would like to have maybe we can start with Elohana. What would you expect in motivation letter from the prospective applicant?
That is it's a vital question because it's the first stage. And I guess there are differences there between programs, but in folkloristics and applied heritage studies, what we are looking for is really your individual voice, why it is that you're interested in this topic, what has brought you there, and where you can see the studies will take you in the future. So in a way, you need to mediate between different temporalities and kind of try to avoid cliches, because, for example, it's very easy to write in a stereotypical manner about folklore or cultural heritage, but we want to kind of go beyond the surface and get to know you a little bit via this letter. So I would say, like, your voice and abstaining from stereotypes is really important.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'd like to say is, and I suspect this is true of other people as well, is that if you want a more detailed description of how we assess motivation letters and other parts of the application, that's included on the websites for the respective master's programs. So you can then see how the admissions committee is going to judge whether it's good or bad by looking at those criteria. So that's just one thing. But if I think about philosophy in particular, then again, I was stressing the flexibility of the program, and that we want to be able to see that people are going to be internally motivated when they're here to really make the most out of it. So we want to see like where you're coming from. So what was your previous degree? Where do you want to be after you're finishing the MA? And how is it that the MA is going to be the means by which you get from your background to that next stage? And there can be more or less compelling stories about this kind of thing. So if you are very vague or you engage in various stereotypes, then that's less convincing. It suggests that you haven't thought about it so much. Whereas if you get something that's distinctive, something that's a bit more detailed, that can be much more compelling. It gives us more confidence that you really are a person who wants to come here and that you're going to make the most out of the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Tita, I can see that you are ready to answer.
Yes, actually for semiotics, the approach is rather much the same. Namely, we mostly want to know why you want to study semiotics. But this already includes at least a bit of previous knowledge of semiotics. We don't expect that you have studied many courses, but just that you know where you are coming to and what do you want to get from semiotics. Also, your previous background, as there can be students from many fields, not even only humanities or social sciences, and how you connect your previous background to this, what you expect from semiotics. And so maybe also what mostly triggers your interest from our program or the research, our staff. And also if you don't manage to include everything, then the interview will also later be based on the motivation letter, so you can develop your ideas and plans there also.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. We have another question to semiotics. Can I do a comparative study of Yuri Lotman and other terrorists outside Tartu Moscow School? Very specific. Thank you. So next questions that we received about the scholarship opportunities. So maybe we can just make another circle and talk about tuition waivers or any other scholarship opportunities at each department. And then we don't take these questions anymore. So Alejandra, if you can start, please.
Thank you. So this year we can hand out 5 tuition fee waivers. And they are based on the ranking of candidates. Then Alex, in his presentation, covered some of the common ground of achievement stipend and some other stipends that are available to all students at the University of Tartu. And some of them become available starting from the second semester. And then there are some stipends that are specific to our Folkloristics and Applied Heritage Studies program, or rather they are specific to all programs in ethnology, folkloristics, and these are also, you can apply for them when you're already a student. And usually also you have to write a motivation letter and explain why you are a worthy candidate. And then there are stipends for going abroad or for doing shorter or longer research trips, like Dora Plus, for example, if you need to do fieldwork for your master's thesis or project, or attend at the conference or something like that. So there are stipends for different purposes, and yeah.
Thank you very much. Alex, would you like to continue?
Yeah, so a lot of overlap there. I guess we have a few more of the fee waivers. So we've got 8 fee waivers. Again, there's the general stipends. So the achievement stipend, if you're an Estonian citizen, then the needs-based stipend. There are the Erasmus Plus is another means of getting funding for going abroad. So I mentioned Sophia with her thesis that she wrote on how to interpret standards of guilt in a legal context. And she went abroad to study at, I can't remember where she's gone, but she's used an Erasmus Plus as a source of funding to go somewhere after she finished her MA so that she could continue working on it. And she's working in I know it's an interdisciplinary center that's related to law. And so that's how she used that. We don't have any department internal special stipends. yeah, that covers everything for philosophy.
These are great opportunities already. Tit, how about the semiotics or Ellie?
Yeah, I'll just so basically a combination of the two already described. We have 5 tuition fee waivers, 1 for EU student and 4 for others, and then this allowance based on the results, and oh yes, and the tuition fee waiver is also based on the ranking. Depending on motivation letter and interview. And of course, we have many Erasmus Plus partners as well, and also students can do a traineeship after they graduate. So many opportunities there, or if they want to go to a conference or do their research somewhere, this can also be funded with Erasmus or other supports. But we don't have any internal. Specifically departmental support, yes.
But in addition, actually, there have always been students who come with their own stipend from their homeland. So you can also be openly look for this. Maybe there are some offers.
There are some questions about career perspectives. It was addressed specifically to philosophy. And then we have also question if Estonian is necessary to work in Estonia after graduation. So maybe we can also start with Elohana and just discuss career perspectives at each department, at each program. Although I know you presented already and you had it on the slide, but
yeah. So broadly, I mean, also very many transferable skills, and it's up to your initiative and plans really where you put them to use. And as I said during the presentation, to get the most out of the program and the opportunities provided by the University of Tartu as a whole, then it makes sense to think about where you see yourself in the future. But museums and archives are an option, then various jobs that require good writing skills, working with people, interviewing, for example. And then also various positions in the field of cultural policy. And again, that might be something that already during your studies, you might want to collaborate with institutions back in your home country in the field of heritage studies. So that's what some of our students have done. And some are aiming for an academic career and have gone to continue on PhD level. And then when it comes to the language, so if you want to study already during your MA studies or explore something to do with Estonian culture, then knowing some Estonian is helps certainly. And the same applies to jobs as well, especially in the sphere of culture. Knowing the local language is important. But nowadays, I guess we're all interconnected, and it's possible to carve out a position for yourself where this isn't the most important criterion.
I guess it's also worth to mention that we are offering over 12 languages that can be taken during the studies. So there is an opportunity to also learn Estonian at the university. And these courses are going to be completely for free for our students. But yes, Alex, would you like to continue?
Sure. Yeah, so like I said, a fairly large proportion of our graduates go on to funded PhD programs. Those who don't go off into things, well, they go into a variety of different things since the degree is not a vocational degree. But the places that they go into are places where the sorts of transferable skills that we train are valued. So people have gone on to work in journalism, people have gone on to work in think tanks. We have several people going to work in startups. So there's one graduate who went to work in Starship Technologies, so this automated delivery robots, and he was writing his thesis on autonomy and how that connects with machines. But I think the things that were valued in this were the sorts, his ability to be able to explain, to present a case or an assessment of some claim or some proposal, to present that to a variety of different audiences, to put that in writing as well in a way that's accessible. So places where so journalism is also a place where those kinds of skills are valuable. So any place where those kinds of things are valuable are the kinds of place where our graduates find employment.
Thank you very much. Eli or Tit, would you like to comment?
Yes, sure. Well, again, a bit maybe overlapping, but it really, having studied semiotics myself, I can say that it helps to know, to understand what one might want to do with their life. But semiotics really, it gives you a deep understanding of communication processes and life, and it's really important in many spheres in this globalizing world. So there's so many different paths that one can take. It can be more in culture field or in understanding technology today. Basically, I would say that the world needs semioticians so much to understand the complex systems that are going on everywhere. So yeah, but it helps to know your own interests. And regarding working in Estonia, Tartu especially, it's really, really international, and we have many companies that are international. So it's not required to know Estonian specifically, but it gives you an advantage, and maybe you can work and more, like you have more choice and where to work if you know that here. And like I already mentioned in the presentation, also it gives you also semiotics. If you're creative, you can work out an interesting plan, what you might want to create yourself with this new understanding and knowledge.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Just came another question for semiotics. Is there a PhD program in semiotics available for international students?
Yes, our PhD program is in English. And we have many PhD students from all over the world coming together. And some are also not present in Tartu all the time. So they're doing the research also abroad. So yes.
Yeah, great. There are also some questions related to admissions. So mostly about prerequisite courses or qualification in order to apply to the programs. Maybe, Eli, we can start from you. If you have any requirements to previous qualifications from the applicants for bachelor's degree or for some courses that they needed to pass in order to study, for example, semiotics?
Any bachelor's degree is fine. We don't require previous knowledge in semiotics. It's just an advantage to bring out your specific curiosity in the motivation letter and interview, but it's not required.
Alex, would you like to continue?
Similar. So yeah, you need an undergraduate degree and you need to pass the English language requirements of the university. You can find these online. So specifically if you go to the master's application page for whichever master's you're interested in, and you look at the admissions conditions, you'll eventually find your way to very detailed descriptions on what exactly these requirements are. That's the most authoritative and accurate and detailed source of information for this, and I recommend that you go and look there for that.
Elohana?
Yeah, it's the same here. And while some of our students do have a background in the study of folklore, or for example, cultural anthropology or ethnology or something like that, then our students do come with very, very different backgrounds. And I think that's part of the diversity that I was referring to in my presentation, and that's making us richer, that we value.
Thank you very much. We have another question regarding how reachable professors are. How reachable are professors? That's a good question also to ask from the student discussion, but we can also try to answer this question. Elohana, maybe you can start. How reachable professors are at your department? I guess in terms between student-professor.
Yeah. So because the program is small, then our student kind of professor ratio, even though I can't cite any statistics from the top of my head, then it's quite remarkable. And I would describe professors at the Institute of Cultural Research as accessible and student friendly, and really it's a small program. So I don't think this has ever been an issue, and there are also many opportunities to interact outside the strict kind of classroom setting.
Alex?
Yeah. So, yeah, we're very reachable. There are some people who are in the department every day, and generally if you knock on their door and want to talk about something, then they'll either say yes, but in 2 hours, because I would have finished something. But they'll generally be available. What should I say? As I said in the presentation with philosophy, you're immediately assigned a supervisor when you arrive, and that's a person who oversees your studies during your 2 years. Not necessarily going to teach you content, but they will make sure that you're aware of what's going on and so on. And that can be a way of making sure that you have access to people. That's someone you can, if you're trying to get access to somebody, and for some reason that's difficult, you can talk to the supervisor and you can find a way to do it. We're very reachable.
Thank you very much. And semiotics?
Also, I would say professors are very reachable. We are on one floor, and everybody has their office there, and they have office hours, and mostly they're working there every day. So you can always knock on the door and then go and ask a technical question or ask about what interests you. You can choose your own supervisor based on the interest you have, and then they will be there for you throughout your studies as well. And maybe we have a couple of professors that are really leading figures in the field, and it might be a bit scary to approach them at first. But what I've heard from the students as well, they are really, really surprisingly friendly, and I think that there's no problem with that communication.
There is another question to semiotics. What practical courses are offered at the program?
Practical courses, well, many courses have smaller practical tasks and activities, like in more general during the courses. And then there are also some courses that are more directed to practical applications, starting from the professional practice in semiotics, where you can go to some organization and act as a semiotician, do some semiotics tasks, for example, related to communication, or in museum, creating the, so to say, text of an exhibition, where you are alone in the practical field. But also we have designed some elective courses that are namely for taking the models and concepts of semiotics and playing with the opportunity to apply them in the safe context of these studies. For example, in the analysis of culture or some conflict situation, there was the semiotics of conflict course, as well as in relation to landscape semiotics and the study of urban space, where you can go actually to field work also.
Thank you very much. We have a question about the interview. So how to prepare for a successful interview? So maybe you can give some tips how the interviews are conducted at your programs and what kind of questions are going to be asked from our applicants. Maybe, Alex, we can start with you.
Sure. So we tend to use a set of, standardized questions, because that enables us to compare the students more easily and how they respond to the same sorts of questions. And the questions will relate to, why do you want to come to Tartu in particular? What would you like to focus on when you're here? There'll usually be a question that asks you to explain something that you defended in your writing sample. So it's not like we're trying to catch you out. It's just that we're trying to see how well you can explain, you can communicate through talking, not just whilst on the page. And we want to see how well you do that. And we're also interested in how things like how you respond to criticism, so that if you're objected to, you're not just going to carry on thinking the same thing if the objection's any good, but that you'll take it into consideration. So you don't have to show that you're kind of invincible in what you think. It's more like, how's that person going to behave in the seminar room? Like, are they going to be a good interlocutor with other students and with the professors? Yeah.
Thank you. Alejandra, would you like to continue?
It's the same for us. We don't have a set of questions that we would ask everybody. It's very much based on your motivation letter. So there might be some clarifying follow-up questions based on what you've written about. And then also we give candidates the opportunity to ask questions from us, from the committee, to make it more interactive and more like a dialogue. But I would say it's read your motivation letter again and fill in any gaps that you yourself can identify there, anything you would like to add to it, and just be prepared to have a conversation.
Eli or Tit?
Yes. Well, first, as the interview is going to be online, it would be great to be prepared technically, to have a good internet connection, no background noise, and just be generally actually available in this form of dialogue. And also, again, pretty much the same. We with the committee, there's going to be several people from several different backgrounds from our department. So they're going to approach you from this perspective that they have. And they have read your motivation letter and prepared some questions based on that. And we're going to discuss that and your motivation to, yes, come to specifically to Tartu and to this program. And the main thing is we would want to understand the curiosity and how we could help you to move forward and what you expect from us as well.
And also maybe think about a bit your previous study experience. What was important for you from this, whether you had some research activities already, for example, some smaller papers or larger papers, what were the topics, and also something that you might already know about the discipline of semiotics, some authors, so that you would be prepared to answer different kinds of questions, and also about your own experience.
Thank you. There is a question to Alex about writing sample. Could you tell more about it?
Sure. So I guess, yeah, so a philosophical text will be a text that is an extended defense of some claim. So trying to convince the reader through rational means that it's right. But that will be the shape of a typical paper in philosophy. But of course, there are other kinds of paper, other kinds of writing that do the same kind of thing. So that's what we're looking for in the writing sample. We're looking that you understand that what we do here is we kind of developing that ability. And it might be that, it's not the best defense of the claim that you present in the paper. We're not looking for people who don't need the MA. So we're looking at developing these skills in you. But you should show that you understand what you're trying to achieve. And that should be clear from your writing sample, regardless of whether it's in philosophy or in some other area.
Thank you. Question to Alojana. If I want to do a field work in Estonia, but I don't speak Estonian, would it be possible, or would someone help me?
It's definitely possible. One of the good things about kind of ethnographic methods is that you can do them everywhere, and it all comes down to how do you define your aims, what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So, for example, if you're a foreigner doing fieldwork in Tartu, and this is what our students have done. So, for example, they have studied other international students and how they experience Tartu. So, there being an international student is an advantage. If you said that you were interested in some kind of colloquial Estonian, like the way Estonian people themselves talk about things in Estonian, then this obviously would require different kinds of skills. But we definitely help students to prepare for fieldwork. We have courses where we practice the methods, and also later with with your supervisor or other faculty members. We can help you with it. Our students have used interpreters, so it's definitely possible, and you're very encouraged to conduct research on Estonia.
Thank you very much. There is a question about exchange semesters. So would it be possible to go on exchange, and where can I go? Maybe Alex, you can comment on that.
Well, the answer is yes. We have many Erasmus Plus agreements with various different universities, and we just expanded that this year. And so I can remember those. So we were looking at Helsinki, we were looking at the Central European University in Vienna, as well as the University of Vienna. Osnabrück is another one. Osnabrück. I can't remember the full list, but I know it's pretty large, and it's very normal. So a large number of our students will go away for a semester during their studies with us.
Eli, what about Semiotics?
Yes, we also have many international partners in Italy, Germany, Lithuania, France, many places in Europe, many different universities. And you can go for either a semester or a year. You can get extended nominal study period if you go and you need some more time to finish your studies here in Tartu afterwards. It's funded, it's encouraged, and we all have many international students who go, because although we often a very a broad view in semiotics, maybe you find a specific place in another university that offers a couple of courses that will really help you in your research, for example. So you want to go because of that. Also, you can do an internship with Erasmus. So if you want to, for example, go visit a certain professor in a university and do research for a semester, not take any courses, for example, then this is also possible. Yes.
And you can go for a semester abroad to focus on semiotics, which is possible in other centers of semiotics, for example, in Bologna, but also to take a bit more broader view and, for example, focus on culture studies or some other interdisciplinary field. So it's not only semiotics abroad.
Elohana.
Yeah, it's the same. And as for the entire program, then it very much comes down to what it is that you want to achieve and where you see yourself. And we have a network of partners in Europe and beyond. So our students have been to Japan, Israel, various European countries, and also these internships. And you can do an internship during your studies or also like soon after you graduate. So this is what some students have done. So they have graduated and then they have had like lined up 2 or 3 internships. So it takes some planning, but it's worth it.
Yeah, we actually touched another question about internship. So the question is, is it compulsory part of the program and how to find it? Maybe Elohana, since you already started talking about it, you can continue.
Yeah. So in our program, it is compulsory to do either fieldwork or combine it with internship. So how it actually plays out, again, depends on the individual plans of the student, but usually they do a bit of internship and then fieldwork for their research. And yeah, and it's always possible to do more than is actually required. Yeah.
Alex, what about your program?
So there's the practice points, which are a compulsory part of the program. So that's where you are looking for a place to apply what it is that you're learning or what you're doing in your research. There's an officer in our department who helps students to find places of this kind. But generally, so it's very open-ended as to which thing you could do. So you might do something, for instance, back in your home country that's related to applying what you're learning here. And that might be easier, for instance, for linguistic reasons. So there's a person who's there to help you to do this, and there's a part of the curriculum which is dedicated to doing this.
So our applicants should not be worried about that. Eli or Tit, would you like to say something about it as well?
It's not compulsory, but it's possible. And yeah, it can be done either in Estonia or abroad. And maybe it also depends a little bit on whether in your studies you want to go more theoretical or you want to go more applied, and whether you, for example, do your master's thesis or you do a master's project. So there is both opportunities. You choose which one you want to go.
Thank you very much. We have a question also about the competition during the admission. How big is the competition? So maybe, Alohana, we can start with you. So how difficult is to get in to your program?
Well, it varies from one year to the next, but we do have a competition every year. And if you are competing for the tuition fee waiver, then it's even more competitive. So it's worth taking time to write your motivation letter and to kind of think about it thoroughly when you are working on it. But the exact numbers vary from year to year.
Alex?
Yeah, same. The exact numbers vary. I guess there's maybe about, I don't know, 40, 45 or something applicants for these.
How many places do you have?
The 8 fee waiver places, we have 14 places in total. I would say that, to echo what's just been said, which is if it pays to kind of think about your application and the content of those materials, that you can really increase your chances of going up this scale by putting some work into it. It's worth doing it.
Ellie or Tit?
The competition for tuition fee waiver is quite tough, as we only have 5. And we are ready to accept up to 15 people to a course. And there's, again, also it varies every year, but yeah, like 40 applicants or so. But we always try to almost everybody to get an interview. You need at least 50 or 60 points for that on your motivation letter. Then you get an interview, and then from there on. So, anything to add?
Thank you very much. It seems like we are out of time. Thank you very much for being with us today, and thank you very much to our dear speakers for presenting their programs and answering the questions. Of course, you might have even more questions, so I would recommend you that after you receive the presentation or even before, you can see the name of the speakers and workshop. You can also email them and also ask the questions if you have any. And please stay with us. We are going to continue soon with our student discussion round of students from these programs, and they're going also to share their perspective.